You may have fears in listing on the main market or the junior market of the Jamaica Stock Exchange. Whatever those fears are, we can help you to allay them. Give us a call today. Our friendly professional staff will help you through the process. Let us have that conversation. Give us that call.
Welcome to the Business and Entertainment Show. This is a special two-part episode with Maxine Stowe. Welcome to another episode of the B&E Show. My name is JR Watkis, and this week I have another special guest. Her name is Maxine Stowe, and she has been in the music business, the music industry, for several years, and she's gonna tell me all about her career, her journey with big record labels, signing some of the biggest dancehall acts and working with some of the biggest reggae acts. Maxine, welcome to the B&E Show. So let's talk about your journey in the music business and how you come to be where you are now.
Grew up in Kingston, went as far as third form at Excelsior. I was a precocious child, so I was very much skipped in school. I jumped over a lot of grades as I was
Bright girl.
Bright troublemaker. So in third form, I went to New York. We migrated as a family. And I had to start back high school there, 9th grade. And still did very well, honors program, etc. And then entered Barnard, Columbia University at 16. And to study political science. I thought I would be a lawyer or a politician because I was very involved in my mind, not literally, in social and political issues. In Jamaica, it was more, I was sensitive to poverty. When I got into New York, I was immediately radicalized. That was 1970, in the heights of the Black Power movement there. And so because of my personal issues in terms of how I was treated by the school system, where they wanted to put me, my family had to fight. At the same time, there was a big issue about psychiatrists or psychologists saying that blacks were intellectually inferior to whites. Forgot her name. But it was a big controversy that also impacted on me because obviously
Columbia student.
I was highly intelligent. Persons like Eldridge Cleaver, Angela Davis, they were people who I read about and studied and, communed with. And right as I entered university, it transformed more into the African liberation struggles because that was more about South Africa, Angola, etc. And that led me to the Caribbean political movement at the time. The whole world in terms of black empowerment, was the reign. And so I met up persons through the university programs or, Caribbean students, platforms like Rosie Douglas, Trevor Monroe, Walter Rodney. I began to question the power of knowledge to actually make change, and so at that time I got involved with the Rastafari culture, and through the Rastafari I made a journey into Jamaica. Ostensibly it was in the ganja trade, which is very topical now about import-export. It wasn't back then. But then I was talked out of it by Daniel Hartman, who is a great Rastafari artist that generally traded his prints through the music distributors. And in that journey with him, I went to all the major distributors, which led me to my uncle, Clement Dodd.
So it wasn't nepotism.
It wasn't nepotism, it was by chance, and that's why I say I have to give credit to the Rastafari culture for bringing me into the music. At that same time that I met my uncle, it was about 1976, 77. I was also introduced to the late Honorable Bunny Wailer, as Daniel Hartman was to design his second solo album jacket, Protest. Daniel had been involved in the music to the sense that he was a co-star with Jimmy Cliff in The Harder They Come, Pedro.
He was Pedro.
Yeah. Right, so he was ardent follower of the Nyabingi order, but his artistry pulled him into these circles. So
that scene is now even more authentic with where Pedro.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I came to eventually work with Jimmy Cliff as well,
Yeah.
and with, as you know, the Wailers overall. Yeah.
Some people say Jimmy Cliff is one of the foundation artists of Jamaican music, meaning music made here. Blackwell wrote in his book to say that Jimmy Cliff was who brought Bob Marley to the studio, as Jimmy Cliff was already making that Jamaican music. Is that true? And what was that experience like at the time? And what role did Jimmy Cliff play in starting what we now know as Jamaican music?
Jimmy Cliff is of the same stature of Bob Marley, maybe even bigger. But because he, as he says, he didn't ride the Rastafari horse. You understand? You get to understand the role of the Rastafari culture in the ascendancy and the whole marketing, etc. of Bob Marley. Because Jimmy Cliff actually, even in terms of Island Records, he built Island. Jimmy Cliff was at Island Records from the foundation in '64 right up to 1972. He was the actual artist that communed with the rock bands, in Birmingham. He wrote for Island Records. He was an artist and a writer and a co-producer for a lot of what was established at Island. And he was to be that star. He had all of the elements, and what The Harder They Come was to propel him to that level. However, The Harder They Come as a movie was very difficult to produce. So it took long that didn't fit into the music.
Did that frustrate him?
A lot. That's what made him leave Ireland for a better deal at the time. Monetarily, Chris wanted him to hold on, but it wasn't a dispute with Chris or anything. It was really financial. And at that moment of leaving, that was the same time the Wailers were in England with Johnny Nash, and they had just gotten a deal with Columbia Records, actually, and were in studio putting that album together, which became Catch a Fire. Right? The classic Catch a Fire. And so they had their issues now with the tour with Johnny Nash, because the expectancy for the Wailers at that time was from 1963, Simmer Down. The hits had been rolling into England and they had never seen the group. So the expectancy for the Wailers was actually bigger than Johnny Nash. And so there was a haul and pull that eventually when the Wailers got to open for Johnny Nash, the whole place teared down. And so the idea of Johnny Nash being the lead king of reggae, the tour ended. And Danny Sims had to leave, you know, with Johnny Nash, and that's the whole story of the Wailers being stranded in London and the chance meeting with Chris Blackwell. Because up until that time, Chris Blackwell had been distributing Studio One, which is where the Wailers were born, built, you know. And so he was aware of the group, but aware that, you know, they were like rude boy toughs. So even though they had a name, it wasn't his focus. His focus had been Jimmy Cliff. So right at that juncture, the Wailers came in and actually took up the position in the marketing and platforming of Jimmy Cliff.
Let's locate the Wailers, but let's also add Jimmy Cliff to that 1960s to 70s Jamaican music catalog. There is an ongoing cry from even Jimmy Cliff in some quarters to say Trojan Records yet to pay royalties to some of the artists. Trojan is now owned by BMG. What do you know about the music scene then and why artists would not be paid versus probably producers getting paid? But what do you know about that copyright intellectual property space from 1960s to 70s that would have affected the artists then?
Well, from Studio One, from Coxson's side, I understand it that initially the music industry the music was being made for the sound system. It wasn't being made to sell records. And so the contractual arrangements that were in place, I've yet to only see Coxson with contracts. Most of the other personalities, it wasn't in place. And even in the sense of Coxson, you saw the disconnect between the artist recording for the sound system, and when that popularity grew to the point where the recognition now that actually records can be sold out of this popularity, getting shows and not about records. And then you didn't have a administrative managerial base of people. It's mostly your parents. A lot of these artists were teenagers. You know, the Wailers were like 15, 16, 17. They never had a business base like lawyers or managers. It was just the raw, you know, music, sound system, dance, you know, platform. So, and there is so much. There were a lot of up and coming artists, you know, a lot of artists coming out of the country. You know, the Harder They Come movie, coming into town looking
which
for
still
that.
happens
Which
today.
still happens today. But yeah, so I would say that we were young as a society, and all the societies went through this, whether it's England or America. If you look at all the beginning, all of the early artists suffered the same type of situation in terms of not being contracted properly, or, you know, but the music became evergreen. And so what those societies have done is they have put in reversion clauses that say, okay, after 35 years, you can go and renegotiate. That has not happened for Jamaican music, except maybe if you, through the United States, you know, happen to know the system and able to go in, because you still only have a certain period of time after the 35-year mark to get back your rights. And when you get back your rights, it's not, you wouldn't be in a position to actually take them and go and make money for yourself, because you don't have that marketing push or structure. So it's really a renegotiation with the labels that do own the music, that you could renegotiate another and a better term. So that's what I see for the music, which is why I was very much focused on the Museum of Jamaican Music. It wasn't really just to showcase the artifacts or the history. but it was really, in my mind, a position where, as a collective, the artists and musicians could have renegotiated with the international marketplace.
Because especially with new technologies, blockchain, NFTs, metaverse, all of this coming in now, it's much easier to create a museum experience, not just digitally, but I am seeing a Jamaica Music Museum in Ocho Rios on the pier, charging people $30 to come in and making hundreds of millions of dollars, right? Why this has not been done before for 60 odd years of music, indigenous music. And if we can go even further with Harry Belafonte's 1950s. So almost 70 years of music. Why haven't we seen a space where people can come and trace the history of Jamaica's music culture, other than the Bob Marley Museum and the Peter Tosh Museum?
Well, I was very involved. I have to say the last maybe 20 years of my career has been on that issue, you know, in the sense of I've seen meetings, business plans, all of this generated at a high level, but it doesn't come to fruition. The capital that is necessary it cannot be political. It cannot come from government. And then on the private sector side, none of the music industry practitioners, like the major, whether it's VP, you know, Island, all of these other companies, Tough Gong, etc., they basically are not in Jamaica. They're external, right? And it's not like Red Stripe where there's an external subsidiary or Grace Kennedy, but you come here and you see the corporate offices are located here. Even if they sell to a international partner, you still see that corporate structure here in Jamaica. The music isn't so. So you only have the government, and then you have the small cottage industries that producers and their small labels that still have to go through the international Jamaican system. Not just, people think international means the major labels, but your own Jamaican system is international. So that disconnect.
That is true.
That
is a fact. That
disconnect as to where the headquarters of the music is, that it's not here. It's actually abroad. No analysis or no policy has been generated to address that. So my thought was that, well, every other product of Jamaica, there's a joint venture between the international and the local. Every product, banana, bauxite, etc. Why isn't there a policy position to address the international investment, both from our domestic and international partners into the local? It is frowned on. It is obstacled. It is not up at JAMPRO as a priority to bring this home.
Let's go for a break. We'll be right back. Maxine is telling us how dancehall started and the difference between dancehall, two separate words, and dancehall, the genre. This is the B&E Show. I'm JR Watkis. We'll be right back.
You may have fears in listing on the main market or the junior market of the Jamaica Stock Exchange. Whatever those fears are, we can help you to allay them. Give us a call today. Our friendly professional staff will help you through the process. Let us have that conversation. Give us that call.
If it were not for the Jamaica Stock Exchange listing, Phosphate Company Limited would not be where it's at today.
Fesco started from 5 shareholders who believed that they could execute a fuel company as good as or as better than any multinational.
Caribbean flavors and fragrances. I have seen that our company has expanded tremendously after being listed.
Our experience so far has translated into additional customers.
Being listed on the stock exchange allows us a certain prestige. It also speaks to accountability and transparency.
Our transparency has allowed us to access credit easier and at better rates.
We have expanded in terms of our customer base, in terms of our suppliers.
All the fears I had about banks, about losing control, you are having them. And I tell you, they were dissipated when I spoke to the Jamaica Stock Exchange.
So if you're a private company thinking about growing your profits, having better access to capital, I really think you should consider listing on the junior or the main market.
You may have fears in listing on the main market or the junior market of the Jamaica Stock Exchange. Whatever those fears are, we can help you to allay them. Give us a call today. Our friendly professional staff will help you through the process. Let us have that conversation. Give us that call.
Go ahead, have that conversation as soon as possible. We did it and we're very happy.
Make that call now.
You will be glad you did.
And we're back with my guest, Maxine Stowe, who is telling us some history of Jamaican music. She told us about reggae and the copyright laws and the copyright differences between the US and elsewhere and Jamaica and why artists aren't being paid even to this day. And now she's telling us about dancehall versus dancehall. I spoke with Clevie. He said dancehall started 84, 85, and he pinpointed when the boof bap rhythm he spoke about started. But of course dancehall was a thing, but the dancehall music with the electronic sounds he said started 84, 85. Where do you locate dancehall music? And tell me, in your opinion, the difference between dancehall, 2 separate words, and dancehall.
Well, dancehall is part of an ecosystem. So the sound system is where the music, as it is generated, is connected to the people and the consumer, independent of society. And so...
Which traces back from the drum on the plantation.
Exactly.
Because when them say stop, we beat drum and born Babylon.
So when they say stop, the sound system. And the sound system plays in the dancehall. So the sound system and the dancehall, and the sound system, as I was telling you about my uncle and why the music was produced for the sounds, you know. When my uncle owned a sound, he had about 6 of them as downbeat, and so on any night, the 6 of them are playing all over. That was the business. It wasn't like, okay, you have a one sound.
Can you imagine we had cameras in those times to capture 6 dance
one night, you know what I mean? So
we should do that now in this time, 6 dance one night.
You know? So my understanding of dancehall is not about the space, just dance hall. It is the sound system linked to the dancehall, linked to the people, which has been a constant straight through the journey of the Jamaican music today. When it became a genre, meaning identified as a genre, actually starts with my late husband, Sugar Minot, also a practitioner of the dance hall, because he was a selector, sound system operator, and knew all of the rhythms that were happening, you know, on that level. So when he got to audition for Mr. Dodd, first it was as a group, African Brothers.
This is dance hall, 2 separate words.
Coming together with dance hall, the genre. I'm telling you where it starts. Right. So Sugar is the first artist that then at Studio One said, no, he's not going to work with musicians. He's going to work with the established rhythms that Mr. Dodd had that's already playing as staples in the dance hall. So he introduced the idea that you can now just sing on a rhythm. Sugar would be singing this song directly on the rhythm, right? And his first album, Live Loving, is considered the first dancehall album because it was completely a rhythm-driven album.
What
right?
day is this? What year is this?
This was 1978 and
What
79.
day is this?
I don't know about the day.
Because we need to locate dancehall's birthday.
Yeah.
Like how hip hop has a birthday.
Right.
Dancehall doesn't have a birthday.
Well,
Where's
I
dancehall's
was
birth
saying,
certificate?
No, I was saying just the same idea that in 1973-74, when Kool Herc went to New York, Bronx, and had the jam, the party jam, that is now a marker for the 50th anniversary of hip hop. I posited because Sugar is supposed to get a award on Jaria. And I said to them, you know, we should, in terms of acknowledging Jamaica and the sound system and its role in not just Jamaican music, but internationally. It's a sound system that changed the music industry of England, and it's a sound system that went into America again
Hip-hop.
and initiated the genre of hip hop. So we should acknowledge Sugar's song, Wrongdoers. It was slated to say it was released, this one I investigated, in 1974. And because it's so close to 73 and they're giving all this hip hop 50th, we should locate Wrongdoers as the first single, even the album came several years later, but the first actual single of the rhythm, Wrongdoers.
And that could be dancehall's
Dancehall's 50, yes. If you understand that outside of the rhythm, Sugar is a practitioner of the dancehall, where he developed his own sound system, Youth Man Promotion, and Black Roots, and you know, so as he's coming as an artist, he's not just coming in as a singer. He's coming in as a technical practitioner of the dancehall, the sound system, you know, the dances, 82 Chisholm Avenue, you know,
all
the elements. That is what came to give this acknowledgement and prominence, because even in, say, 1980, you know, all three are operating. The reggae, the ska, the dancehall. The genres don't move like a genre come in and move out the other one. It gets prominence, but it's always there feeding the Jamaica.
And a soca was there somewhere too, with the jump up, jump up.
Yeah, the calypso transformed into soca for with the same kind of energies. A lot of times it's technological. I think in terms of dancehall, outside of that technicality coming in, right? You had our singers, Gregory, Dennis, even Sugar himself, that were all being signed by the majors at the time and under a lot of pressure to cross over and singing more, you know, like how they would talk about Catch a Fire and what, you know, other musicians were brought on to give it a more rock feel or etc. It was happening straight across the music at that time, because there are different times when we are at the verge and the international companies come and say, wow, this is the fertilizer, but it's now crossing over. And in crossing over, you go into that system. So at that time, you find that a lot of our music, top people were not, the music wasn't so much with the Jamaican people. You understand? Like, they know the artists, them trying a thing, but they are not attuned to that.
They know the market.
The market.
The artists know the music.
Music, you know?
And this whole thing, which I've been saying on this show and my other shows, it's about marketing.
It's about marketing.
If you could make the worst song and you can market it, it's gonna work. And you can make the best song without marketing and it probably fall flat.
Right, because your market is different. In the Jamaican context, when the Jamaican people are your market, that's your initial market. You have to stay true, because if you don't make it in Jamaica, you're not gonna get much further.
Join us next week for part 2 of Maxine Stowe's interview on the Business and Entertainment Show. I'm JR. See you next week.